Welcome to Founder Stories, a show about entrepreneurs, innovators, and their success journeys. I'm your host, Teja Kalola. In this episode, we will learn how Usman Imana turned his low-yielding farm business into a very lucrative tea brand. His tea, Friskalife, is now selling in over 600 stores all over Nigeria with plans to expand into United States and Canada. This is his story. Let's dive in. Hey Usman, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good evening, Teja.
Yeah, good evening. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I am a biochemistry major.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in corporate Nigeria for about 15 years. I worked in brands and marketing and corporate communications. I worked in investment banking, consumer electronics, and commercial banking. But I started my entrepreneurial journey 6 years ago.
Wow.
We started as a farm. I was doing it while I was keeping a day job. We
Mm,
grew from farm and eventually we started producing herbal tea from what we grew from the farm. So now we've moved from just farming to producing herbal tea, and next month we're going to start producing baby food.
that's pretty cool. So, are you
Yeah.
born in Nigeria?
Yes, I'm born in Nigeria, born, bred, and who probably die in Nigeria.
Okay. Oh, when you were a kid, did you ever dream of starting a business, or have you ever dreamt of being an entrepreneur?
So as a kid, as far back as I can remember, I think the entrepreneurial bug came in when I was in the university. But as a
Okay.
child, I had differences. At some point, I wanted to be a doctor. My my parents wanted me to be in the military, to be an army officer. So there are
Hmm.
so many different conflicting future ambitions. But by my second year in university, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was very deliberate about it. After university, um, I was a part-time entrepreneur for 15 years, but today I'm doing it full time and I'm loving it.
So, let me get this a little bit clear. When you were in university, how did that entrepreneurial bug start? Like,
So
was there a motivation? Is it something related to your your major in the university, and you're like, I don't want to do this, or what was your major, and how did the entrepreneurial bug start?
okay, so getting in my country at the time that I was growing up, there were four major courses that if you studied in the university, your family you would have a sense of a future, and it was
Hmm.
either medicine, law, engineering, or accounting. So I wanted to be get into medicine, but I mean I didn't make the cut to study medicine, so I had to settle for biochemistry. So it was
Okay.
very depressing. I Yeah, it was very depressing at that time because I wanted to be a doctor, and nobody really takes biochemists. Nobody, well, I didn't think that anybody took biochemists seriously. But in my
Hmm.
second year in university, I attended a program by a motivational speaker. There were some motivational speakers that came to talk to students, and it was at that program. It was like they were speaking to me directly. So they
Hmm.
made us understand that, you might be studying a course in university, but you have the choice of taking charge of your destiny. You can decide how you want to grow, what you want to be in the future. You can take deliberate steps to make a life for yourself. And they made me understand that entrepreneurship was real. That was all I
Hmm.
needed. And my journey started from there. I went on the internet, started training myself, reading up stuff, learning more about entrepreneurship, learning more about business. I dabbled my hands in a couple of businesses before settling on what I'm doing right now.
So,
Mm.
you you listened to some motivational speakers that came to your university, and then you wanted to be an entrepreneur. So how did you decide what entrepreneur you want to become? And how did you stumble upon that business idea?
Okay, so I wouldn't say that I met them and then I wanted to become an entrepreneur. My encounter with them made me understand that I had options.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all they did was make me understand that I had options, and that you know that that I could actually decide how my life would turn out. That the fact
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't studying one of the lucrative courses in university did not mean that my life was over. So that was what it did for me. Now, in terms of the business that I'm in now, coincidentally, you know, it has to do with the course that I studied in school.
Mm.
You know, even though it was one of the reasons why I was really that I really went into entrepreneurship in the first place. So my project in university was on moringa and fasting sugar in lab rats. So I
Mm-hmm.
had already had an encounter with it. So 6 years ago, I decided to go into farming. I met a friend, a colleague at that time that was into agriculture, and he talked to me about agriculture, and I decided to go into farming. And when it came to time of choosing what crop I was going to grow, moringa was the in thing that time, was very popular across the globe and all that. And because I had done my research, my project in the university on moringa, it was easy for me to just go delve right in. So we started as that. So I decided that I was going to go into agriculture and do moringa. But at that time, what the business is today is far different from what it was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
We had to pivot several times to the model that we're running right now. You know, so I wouldn't say that I decided on the business that I wanted to do. I started the entrepreneurial journey. And over the years, you know, we've allowed the market and the customer to decide how our business will grow. And yeah, that's basically it.
So when you say you started your entrepreneurial journey, what was the first step you took? How did you go about uh, getting resources or starting what you want to start at that time?
Okay, so um, at the point where I knew that I had options and I got bitten by the entrepreneurial bug, the first thing I started doing was there was this newspaper every Tuesday. They call it
Mm-hmm.
The Guardian in Nigeria. It had opportunities, seminars, and all that. So I started reading Tuesday Guardians. And then there was a magazine there, they call it Success Digest for entrepreneurs. I started buying it weekly, reading up opportunities and all. And the first opportunity that I stumbled on was a free web design training,
Mm-hmm.
and which I attended and I learned a bit of web design and graphic design, and I got introduced to the internet properly. I started, you know, going to the internet, downloading tutorials, taught myself how to design websites, taught myself how to do graphics design. And with that, I was earning a bit of money, and then
Mm-hmm.
started, you know, from there, I graduated and started working, well, not a job, but I was teaching web design and working for an NGO at the same time, so I was sustaining myself. That was my first hustle.
Wow.
Eventually I got a job, and I couldn't design websites again and all that because the job was taking my time. But
Mm-hmm.
after a while, I was still studying on the internet, learning things and all that. I realized that buy stuff I could import stuff from, buy stuff from Alibaba, package it here in my country and sell. So I started importing um, um, Android tablets because they were
Okay.
not very common here. So I would import them. I had my brand then, and I would sell, so I was making some money
So
and all.
let's go back a little bit. Sorry for interrupting, but when you were uh, when you were in your web designing business, uh, first of all, the shift from biotechnology to web design is a pretty acute one because
Yeah,
you're not much related to your major, and this is something you
at
had to
all.
learn completely online, which is
Yes.
amazing. And then once you got those skills, how did you get get work? How did you approach people to hire you? Because
So
you
while
were
I,
this you're this biotechnology college kid
yeah,
without any experience before.
true. So while I was learning, I
Hmm.
was also learning how to set up a freelance business. I know that I downloaded one PDF document that outlined how to set up a freelance website design out. So it had samples of how your proposal should be. So I developed a proposal, and then I would buy the newspaper and look at the companies that are placing adverts
Hmm.
and take their email address. So companies were advertising. If I see that their email address is a Yahoo or a Gmail or you know any of these free email addresses, it was an indication that they did not have a website. So I
Hmm.
would send them my proposal. I would
Wow.
email them on that and send them my proposal. And I got like 2 or 3 jobs and that I executed and I got paid, you know.
So
So
what was this proposal you sent them out? Was it like a portfolio of your work, or is it just your resume?
So the proposal was that I saw your adverts in the newspaper. I saw that you used a commercial email address, and that means that you do not have a website. I
Hmm.
am a website designer, and I had some sample websites that had done. They were pretty amateur, but then owning a website was a new thing in Nigeria. So not many people were doing it professionally. So I would outline that send them to my sample websites and tell them that I will be willing to come and have a meeting with them to discuss how we can help them get their website. And the response was it was amazing.
Wow, that's really good. So after that website business, how did you? So you said then you pivoted to importing Android tablets from
Yes,
China and selling them here. Uh,
yes.
why Android tablets at that point? Because they were new in Nigeria. And what year was this at?
So this was 2011.
Okay,
This was
so about 10
2011.
years ago.
So yeah, so the Android tablets were new. It was novel, and I could get them on Alibaba
Hmm.
and ship them to Nigeria. So I did a couple so because again, over the internet, I learned how to order for stuff on Alibaba, ship them and sell. So I looked through and I was looking at things that would give me proper margins, things that were not common and things that
Hmm.
were they were new and people were aspirational. So at that time, it was a cool thing to own a tab,
Hmm.
and yeah, so that was what I looked for. And the moment I got my suppliers, I started importing. I would import say 20 at a time, sell, make good margins, import again, and the only challenge I had at that time was when people had challenges with when they had technical issues with the tablet, because I wasn't a technician. A lot
Hmm.
of people, it was a problem. I had to start looking for an engineer that would help me fix
Wow.
issues that the customers had. But then I had to stop that business because I got a job with Samsung,
Okay.
and Samsung was selling tablets. I couldn't be selling tablets and be working for
Right.
an organization because of conflict of interest. So that was how that
Hmm.
business died.
Okay. So then you started working for Samsung, and what were you
Yes.
doing with them?
In Samsung, I was their public relations manager.
Okay.
So I was the image maker of the company. So yeah, it was in Samsung that I met the colleague that was into farming as a side
Hmm.
hustle, and I spoke to him, and he advised me, he gave me some pointers, and then I went into farming, started growing moringa,
So
and the rest is
I'm
history.
sorry, I'm not much familiar, but what is moringa?
Moringa is a medicinal herb, is a superfood.
Okay.
Um, it's very nutritious.
Hmm.
It's one of these superfoods that has numerous health benefits.
Okay. So with
Yeah,
that, then you pivoted to Friska Life from
yes.
that
No,
business.
the moringa was actually Friska. It was Friska Farms. So it started
Okay.
as a farm, and we wanted to grow moringa and export. But
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't have the resources to grow at scale,
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't, the people that were buying for exports, our volume was too low for them to patronize us. So I was forced to start processing the leaves of the moringa and
Mm.
packaging it as tea.
Okay,
So
that's
yeah, so I first of all started packaging as moringa tea. But by the time I started packaging as moringa tea, the buzz for moringa had died,
mm.
because these things come in cycles. So today it might be kale, tomorrow it's aloe vera, next tomorrow moringa. But once the world is tired of a superfood, the world moves. So the world moved from moringa. So and I'd already invested in a farm, so I had to find a way to make that that investment work, which was why
Mm-hmm.
I started drying the leaves and making moringa tea. But even moringa tea was difficult to sell in Nigeria, so I
Mm-hmm.
had to understand that. I learned that the customer is not interested in moringa tea. The customer is interested in the issues that they're solving their own problems. And moringa is good for blood pressure, diabetes, and weight loss. So we had to repackage our products to address the problems that the customers had. And that was how this business was born.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
so you decided you to go and do farming. You were growing moringa, and
Yes.
then b- how did you acquire the land that's required for farming? Was this your own investment, or did you pull in some investors?
Okay, so it was my investment, and I got the land in my village where I'm
Okay.
from, my
Mm-hmm.
origin. So it wasn't too difficult to get. My parents were supportive, and they helped in getting the land. So I got the land for a fee that I could afford, and then I got a loan from a commercial bank
Mm-hmm.
to set up the farm and all. I got a personal loan from a commercial bank to
Gotcha.
set up. Yeah.
So, in the initial days of your farming, how is the revenue coming from? How's what's the source of revenue flow for you?
So I ran that farm at a loss for close to 4 years.
Wow.
Yes. But I had, because I was doing it by the side, I had a job that was
Mm-hmm.
I was paying the bills. So it was a loss for say 3.5 years.
Mm.
It was a
So,
loss up until when we started producing specific teas for ailments.
so during this period of loss, have you ever thought maybe the entrepreneurial thing is not working, or did you ever have
Yes,
second thoughts?
I had second thoughts. I went into depression. I was frustrated.
Wow.
It was a dark period in my life.
Hmm.
You know, at some point I was almost suicidal because there was debt coming. I had a family. I just had my second child.
Mm.
My job was getting more and more stressful. The farm was draining money from me. So I was in a very, very bad place.
So it must be really challenging for you to have a full-time job and manage this. But do you have workers that were working for you in the farm,
Yes, I had two workers in the farm. And
and
then
you got to pay their
eventually,
bills?
yes, I had to pay their bills. So I was paying them from my salary.
Mm. So how did you make that pivot? How did that idea occur to you that the straight farming isn't working? I have to sell this as something that's desirable by the public. So you decided to make tea, but how did
Yes.
that pivot happen?
So I mean, it's common knowledge that with agriculture, the higher you go in the value chain, the more money you make.
Hmm.
So because most farm produce are fresh and the shelf lives are short. So
Hmm.
fresh plantain, fresh bananas, fresh pineapples, once they are harvested, they probably would not last more than 2 weeks.
Mm.
But if you process them into powder or something, the shelf life increases and the value increases. Now, when you
Hmm.
take that powder and convert it into a product, it's no more a commodity. It's now more of a product or a brand, and the value increases.
A
So
health
I've always
brand.
known, yeah, yeah, yes. So it was that understanding that drove me to, when I saw that the method and the plan to sell to for export wasn't working, I just knew that I had to find a way to create a retail product that I could sell to
Mm.
the customers. I needed to take my destiny in my hands.
So when you decided to do the tea, did you do any market research for the demand you have for the tea? Or did you have any projections between your investment? Obviously, you need some more investment to make this farm product into a shelf product. So the processing from a raw plant to the tea, you need knowledge there, and you need some investment there. And do you know what's the return on your investment would be?
So at the time I was going to start the tea, you know, it wasn't even about return on investment anymore because I'd lost so much. It was about the building, getting a business model that would work.
Mm,
So I wasn't focusing on return on investment. I just needed to find, it was like you're starting a business and your revenue models, you your projection, your plan for revenue isn't working. You need to
mhm,
go back and relook your model. So
mhm.
at that point, it is not even about revenue or returns now. It is about even getting a model that works. Then you can now start looking at how long that model will work for you to break even and be profitable.
Mhm.
So I wasn't thinking about revenue because I hadn't seen the light at the end of the tunnel, even to start thinking of return on investment and all. I just needed a model that will work so that the monies I'd invested, all the effort I put in setting up a farm, I would not shut it down. So
So
in
you were
terms of
just trying to make it stay
survive,
afloat. Yeah.
yes, to make it work. So for the tea, because like I said, my project topic in the university was moringa and fasting sugar in lab rats. So I'd already had some knowledge about moringa and
Hmm.
how its efficacy. So that was on one hand. But on making tea, I spoke to a couple of people that were producing tea.
Hmm.
Some of them even helped me with materials. The investment to pivot into tea wasn't really that much because I
Okay.
had already invested in equipment that will help me dry the leaves and all. We started packaging our teas manually.
Hmm.
My wife and I would pack, use teaspoons, put it in the tea bag, seal. So we did that
Wow.
for like a year. We did that for like a year and a half before we now got a proper machine
Hmm.
and then got a room in our house was where we were using as a factory to produce, and then we got people to work for us. But
Mm.
now we're in a factory, you know. Yeah, I mean it's
That's
better now.
Yeah, that's great stuff. So when you were having tea and just had to package it at home, how did you come up with the packaging, the design of the packaging? Was there any design to it, or how did you make your brand known to people?
So the designing of a packaging again, because my day job, I'm in brands and communication. So that's what
Mm,
I was doing. So it was very, very easy. In terms of
helpful for
people
you.
knowing, yeah, so that was but in terms of people knowing about my business, I was on Facebook. So social media played a huge role,
Hmm.
and I was putting it out there. People were seeing it, I was telling people, talking to people, but it was largely through social media.
So you're approaching people on social media, just sending cold calling them, sending them messages, or what were you doing?
So we created a page for the business, for the
Hmm.
products, and then we were putting out creatives, graphic design, marketing messages to say this is what the tea does. We even ran some Facebook ads.
Hmm. So when the orders started coming in, so obviously you had a website at this point, right?
Yes,
So when the orders started coming in, how were you just shipping them out of your home?
yes, yes.
Okay. And when did the first order come after you set up your tea business?
Okay, so after I started the tea business, it was moringa tea at first,
Hmm.
and it didn't sell. I
Okay.
practically did not make any sale. because I was selling it as Moringa tea. And that was one of the lowest points in my time because I supplied some distributors and I never got my money back and everything.
Mm,
So until I had an eureka moment, where I realized that nobody was interested in buying Moringa tea, but
mm.
people wanted to buy tea that would help them regulate their blood pressure or their blood sugar or will help them lose weight. So repackaged the tea to become blood pressure tea, anti-diabetic tea, wellness tea, and weight loss tea, and then started selling. You
So,
know,
so obviously, was these weight loss, wellness, or blood pressure, were these the benefits of the plant itself?
yes, it's the benefit of the
So,
plant.
so you just had to make them known to the people to make this more sellable.
Exactly.
So, how did the name Friska Life came into existence?
So Friska is a name that I coined with my wife. We were looking for a name for the business. And
Hmm.
because we wanted to do organic and natural products, we needed a name that spoke to that. Friska is Swedish for natural and organic.
Wow, how did you get that?
Google translates.
Okay, that's smart. So, so you were using Google Translate to name your business, and
Yeah,
you
so
what
so
what?
we had the name that we wanted for it, but of course it wouldn't be possible to register organic
Hmm.
or yeah, so we had to look for a translation, a foreign that could pass through our corporate affairs commission when we are registering the name.
So
So we tried.
how did you choose Swedish? Why
Yeah,
why not French?
we tried different, different. I guess that was the one that really just, we could agree on. We tried a
So.
couple. We didn't want to use a local, a Nigerian local dialect
Hmm.
because our country is divided along tribal lines.
Mm.
And, where there are different tribes, and if you pick one, people are going to wonder why you're taking that over the other. So it was better to take a foreign one that
Hmm.
would not. Yeah, so we tried different countries, different foreign translations for organic and natural, but it was just Friska that we could agree on.
That's really interesting because so you were there before Google Translate and just translating it to all the languages you
Yeah.
know. Wow, that's really
Yeah.
smart. And then after you changed the name to Friska, how did it impact your business?
Yeah, the change was immense. So I started advertising tea for blood pressure, and people were requesting. And you know, in a very short time, we're almost running out of stock. And the good
Mm,
thing is that people would use the tea and call and say it worked for them, and all. It was the same. In fact, we started advertising tea for blood pressure, and when they would order, we would send them the moringa tea. And
mm.
when they ask, we'll say, just take it and see what will happen. And so when we finished that stock that had the packaging with moringa tea, we now redesigned the pack for weight loss, blood pressure, wellness, and all.
So were there any approvals you had to go through from the government to do this?
Yes, yes, we have a body called NAFDAC. We have our NAFDAC approval.
Okay.
So we didn't get it immediately. But we're selling online.
Mm.
But eventually, after like 6 months, when we applied, we got our NAFDAC approval, and yeah. So now we are confident to sell. We're in over 1,000 outlets in Nigeria, and we are
Wow.
growing. Yes.
Wow. Wow. That is huge. Just from your house in your basement to a big factory. That's really great. So,
Yeah, the factory we are in now presently is currently getting too small for our production. So we are already thinking of moving into an even bigger factory.
wow. So you started your business from your house. You repackaged it as Friska tea, and after a while, when the revenue started flowing into you, um, at what point? How long did it take for you to transition from your house to an actual factory?
Well, from start to when, I'd say um 6 years.
Wow.
6 years.
6 years you
Yeah.
were just selling it from your house.
Yes. The
And
bulk
at
of that
this,
time, I was still working. I still had a day job. So we only moved to a factory when I quit my job to do it full time.
so this was still a side gig for you for all these 6 years.
Yes, it only became a full gig in July.
Very recently.
Yes.
So when you were during these 6 years, how big was the business? Were you making a lot of profits and you're looking at a lot of green, or was this like still very young, and you how was business?
Okay, so last year, I was still doing it. At the end of 2019, I was still doing it part-time,
Hmm.
and at the end of 2020, we've done 3 times what we did last year.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, we've done
So
3 times what we did, and we would have done more if not for COVID.
hmm. So before you quit your job, did you have any uncertainty in your mind, or was this was this a leap of faith, or were you very confident that this is going to really get big?
So while I was running this business, I had milestones that I wanted to get to before I quit my job.
Hmm.
So I wanted to be in 1,000 outlets and be making an average revenue of um, $20,000 monthly.
Wow.
Um, but so 1,000 outlets and exporting to foreign countries. But during the lockdown, by the time we got into the lockdown, then we were already in close to 400 outlets,
Hmm.
and I had salespeople that were helping me in other states of Nigeria. At that time, the it was just too much to combine with my job because
Mm.
I'm here at work. Maybe an outlet is making payments for their purchase. My people are calling me to confirm that payment.
Hmm.
An outlet wants to, there are different things. It was just too much for me
So,
to combine. So at some point, I just told myself that, look, you can't do this, but this business can sustain you now.
mhm.
Why not just quit and do it full time? And
I think that's it. Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah,
a
so
brave move.
yeah.
So w- I'm trying to understand when you started. You're cold calling people. You're selling through your Facebook group and your website. How did the tea get into the outlets? Was Were these outlets just yours, or were these just some herbal tea shops that you sold your tea to, that they're going to distribute them to the people?
So it was a deliberate move. We were selling online
Hmm.
and we weren't making the numbers. So we realized that we needed to be in retail outlets. So these retail outlets are pharmacies.
Mm.
So we stock them. When I say we're in outlets, we don't own the outlets, but we sell through the outlets. It's like retailing. It's like getting your products in Walmart.
Right. So
Okay.
how did you do that?
So we started um, in July last year,
Okay.
July 2019. As at June 2019, we're in 0 outlets.
Mm.
So in July, we started and I hired a sales rep
Okay.
and, you know, and we started going from outlet to outlet. And because we already had the approvals and
Mm.
we're stocking the outlets on credit and they pay us after they sell, it was
Mm.
easy to get in. So we started from 0 in July last year. Today, we're in 1,020 outlets,
That's really great. Were these all in Nigeria, or were these in different
all in
countries too?
Nigeria. But we have orders from Namibia with
Hmm.
LPOs that we were not able to fulfill because of the lockdown, COVID. And up till now, there's no direct cargo flights to Namibia. So we
Okay.
have products, but we can't ship to them. But the moment the
Mm.
world opens, we're entering Namibia, we're making inroads in South Africa, we're trying to get into Ghana. We are on Amazon. Yeah, we're trying to get into Canada. We're trying to get into Europe.
So when you're saying you're trying to get into Canada and Europe, what's your approach there?
So we want to get into African shops in these
Okay,
countries. So we want to work with people in this, we want to work with agents in these countries to help us stock these African shops so that they can sell our products.
gotcha. To another, so African shops in another countries?
Yeah, in Canada
Gotcha.
and in Europe, across Europe.
So how do you approach them being in Nigeria?
So we've not started executing already.
Okay.
We've not started the execution yet. We want to, so these are future plans. For
Hmm.
now, what we are trying to do is optimize the sales, the returns per outlet in Nigeria. That's our key focus for 2021. Optimize the, so for instance, just for explanation purposes. So say on the average, each outlet makes $20 or $30 a month. We want to
Hmm.
see how we can increase the average sale per outlet to say $100 a month.
So how's your sales from your website versus outlets if you compare those?
So if I compare it in December from the website, our sale is let me say 1/6.
Okay. So
1/6.
definitely a lot more population and territorial reach from your
Yeah.
outlets.
Yes, yes.
So a lot of people they go in there. So my question is, do you have dedicated fans of the brand, or do they just go in to get some health tea and get yours?
We have fans and it's both.
Okay. So are there going to be any efforts to increase your brand value
Yes,
in your country?
yes, we are doing a lot in that regard. I mean, just on Friday, I was on radio. On
Hmm.
Tuesday, I have a TV interview. This is one of such opportunities. So every
Hmm.
opportunity I have to go and speak about the brand, I never let down. We are planning to do paid advertising, paid Facebook advertising. We had stopped. Everything we've been doing on social media had been organic. Um, we yeah. So in 2021 is going to be more deliberate in terms of brand building and marketing and
Hmm.
creating awareness in different locations to see that, we increase the rate of sale in the outlets.
That's really good. Um, so one of the questions is how did COVID impact you? I know it did negatively, but during this when COVID hit, that's when you actually quit your job and
Yes,
came into
yes,
this full time, which is really interesting because uh, this is an uncertain time for all businesses, and you took this dramatic move during this point. So was COVID any impact to your business at all?
yes. At the height of the lockdown in April, we had the least sales.
Mm,
That's one. Then two, a lot of the outlets that we are stocking in were not paying
hmm.
because they were using their monies to buy hand sanitizers and nose masks.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a difficult time for us. And then, yeah, so people weren't going to the pharmacies. It was difficult. It was
That's
difficult.
so I'm glad you pulled through and you're doing well with your business right now. That's a really inspiring story of you.
Thank you.
So would you have done anything differently if you were to go back and start your business now?
Well, one of the things I would do, one big lesson that I've learned from my journey is backwards integration. So if I was to run this course again, I
Hmm.
would not go and set up a farm.
Hmm.
I will start my business selling products and building a customer base, then start producing tea before backwards integrating to go and set up a farm. I'll
Hmm.
start closer to where the customer is, where monies is exchanging hands. I would not start from production.
Right. That's a really good lesson for all the listeners of this show. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Usman. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.